Imagine this. A storm rages outside, lightning splitting the sky like jagged cracks in reality. Rain lashes against windows, and the world feels heavy with secrets waiting to be uncovered. But amidst the chaos, there's someone who thrives in it. Someone no one can see. This is the story of Aiko, a magical girl with an extraordinary gift that lets her disappear into storms, blending seamlessly with nature's fury. Her invisibility isn't just power, it's freedom. Freedom to move, unseen, to protect those she cares about, and sometimes to indulge in harmless mischief. But what happens when her playful teasing crosses paths with someone who wasn't supposed to notice? Someone powerful enough to change everything. Aiko has always been different. From the moment she discovered her powers as a child, life became less ordinary and more extraordinary. She could vanish at will during storms, becoming part of the tempest itself. It wasn't something she ever questioned. It was simply hers. Like breathing or dreaming, over time, she learned how to harness it, using her abilities not only for protection, but also for fun. After all, being invisible gave her endless opportunities to mess with people without consequence. And why shouldn't she enjoy herself? Life had thrown its fair share of challenges her way. So why not take advantage of her unique talent every now and then? That's exactly what she thought when she decided to play a little prank on the most intimidating man in the city, the billionaire CEO of Stormhaven Industries, Cale Armitage. Cale Armitage was a name whispered with equal parts admiration and fear. He was the kind of man who commanded attention wherever he went. His sharp suits and sharper gaze making him impossible to ignore. As the head of one of the largest tech companies in the world, he was used to being in control. People feared crossing him because losing his favor meant losing everything. Yet despite his wealth and influence, Cale carried an air of mystery. Few knew much about him beyond his public persona, and even fewer dared to get close enough to try. To Aiko, though, he was just another target for her antics. She'd heard rumors about his gruff demeanor and unshakable focus, which made the idea of sneaking up on him all the more appealing. What better way to test her invisibility than by teasing someone who clearly needed to lighten up? The night of the storm arrived, dark clouds rolling in like an omen. Aiko stood atop a skyscraper overlooking the city, feeling the electricity in the air pulse through her veins. The rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder, until the streets below were drenched and shimmering under the flickering streetlights. Lightning illuminated the horizon, and Aiko smiled. This was her element. With a deep breath, she stepped off the edge of the building, letting the wind catch her as she dissolved into the storm. Invisible once again, she soared toward Cale's penthouse suite, perched high above the bustling metropolis. She didn't know why she chose him specifically tonight, but something about the challenge excited her. Maybe it was the thrill of testing her limits, or maybe it was curiosity about the man behind the legend. Either way, she was ready when Aiko slipped inside Cale's apartment. She found him pacing near the floor-to-ceiling windows, his silhouette stark against the flashes of lightning outside. His expression was unreadable, his jaw clenched tight as if wrestling with some internal storm of his own. For a moment, Aiko hesitated. There was something raw and vulnerable about the way he stood there, staring out at the chaos beyond the glass. But hesitation wasn't really her style. Grinning mischievously, she reached out and nudged a pen off his desk, watching as it clattered to the floor. Kyle froze, turning sharply toward the sound. "Who's there?" he demanded, his voice low and commanding. Aiko stifled a laugh, delighted by how easily she'd startled him. Emboldened, she grabbed a book from the shelf and let it fall too. giggling silently as Kale's eyes darted around the room, searching for the source of the disturbance. What Aiko didn't expect was the sudden shift in his demeanor. Instead of looking confused or scared, Kale's gaze locked onto her, right where she stood. Her heart skipped a beat. How could he possibly see her? She was invisible, hidden within the storm's embrace. Yet there was no mistaking the intensity in his eyes, the way they followed her every movement, as though she was standing in plain sight. Panic bubbled up inside her, but before she could react, Kale spoke. "I know you're there," he said, his tone calm yet firm. "You might think you're clever, but I've dealt with worse than whatever trick you're trying to pull." Aiko froze, her mind racing. Was this some kind of bluff? Or had he somehow figured out her secret? As the seconds ticked by, tension crackled between them like static electricity. Kale took a step forward, his piercing gaze never wavering. "Show yourself," he ordered, his voice cutting through the storm outside, against her better judgment. Aiko hesitated. Something about the way he looked at her made her feel exposed, as if he could see straight through her invisibility and into the very core of who she was. It was unsettling and thrilling. Slowly, cautiously, she allowed herself to materialize, the storm fading away like a curtain, lifting to reveal her standing there. Kale's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly, studying her with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "So," he said finally, breaking the silence. "Care to explain?" But Aiko wasn't ready to answer. Not yet. She stumbled back, unsure whether to run or stay. Her thoughts a whirlwind of questions. How had he seen her? Why hadn't her powers worked? And most importantly, what did he plan to do now that he knew her secret? Before she could decide, Kale moved closer, closing the distance between them with deliberate steps. His presence was overwhelming, magnetic even, and Aiko realized with growing unease that she was completely out of her depth. Whatever game she'd thought she was playing, it had just taken a turn she hadn't anticipated. As the storm continued to rage outside, mirroring the turmoil inside her, Aiko braced herself for what came next. Because one thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. Aiko's mind raced as she stood there, her invisibility gone and her usual confidence shattered. She had always relied on her powers to keep her safe, to give her the upper hand in any situation. But now, faced with Kale's unwavering gaze, she felt exposed in more ways than one. The storm outside raged on, its fury almost mocking her predicament. For years, she'd thought of herself as untouchable, someone who could slip through life unnoticed when she wanted to be. Yet here she was, standing in plain sight before a man who wasn't supposed to see her at all. "How did you know?" she finally managed to ask, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to sound calm. Kale didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied her carefully, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. The way her damp hair clung to her face, the faint shimmer of raindrops still clinging to her clothes, the nervous energy radiating off her like heat. When he finally spoke, his words were measured, deliberate. "I've spent my entire life noticing things others miss," he said. "It's what keeps me alive in this world, and you're not invisible to me." His tone carried an edge of mystery, hinting at secrets of his own. Aiko frowned, her curiosity piqued, despite her unease. What did he mean by that? Was he hiding something too? As if sensing her unspoken question, Kale turned away, walking back toward the window. Lightning illuminated his profile, casting shadows across his features. He looked tired, burdened by something far heavier than just running a multinational. corporation. You're not the only one with unusual abilities, he admitted after a pause, his voice quieter now. Aiko blinked, caught off guard. Abilities? She hadn't expected this twist. All her assumptions about Kale, that he was just another wealthy CEO living in a gilded cage, were crumbling before her eyes. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice tinged with both suspicion and intrigue. Kale hesitated as though debating how much to reveal. Then with a deep sigh, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, a sleek black bracelet, embedded with tiny glowing circuits. This is why I can see you, he said, holding it up for her to see. It's designed to detect anomalies, anything out of the ordinary. Aiko stared at the gadget, her heart pounding. So it wasn't some innate ability of his. It was technology, but that only raised more questions. Why did he have such a thing? And why would he need it? Before she could press him further, Kyle continued. Stormhaven Industries isn't just about profit margins and board meetings. We deal in phenomena, things most people don't believe exist. The revelation hit Aiko like a bolt of lightning. Suddenly, everything made a little more sense. And yet, it opened up a whole new set of uncertainties. If Kale and his company were involved in studying supernatural occurrences, then her powers might not be as unique as she'd always thought. Worse still, they might be in danger of being exploited. Her instincts screamed at her to leave, to vanish back into the storm and forget this ever happened. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the vulnerability she saw in Kale's eyes. Or maybe it was the gnawing realization that running wouldn't solve anything anymore. Either way, she stayed rooted to the spot, waiting for him to say more. Kale seemed to sense her hesitation. Turning fully to face her, he crossed his arms over his chest. You're not the first person like you I've encountered, he said, but you're definitely the most interesting. His lips quirked, slightly, almost forming a smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. I've been searching for answers for years, trying to understand why certain individuals possess extraordinary gifts while others don't. Your invisibility, it's remarkable, dangerous even. Do you have any idea what kind of power you hold? Aiko bristled at the word, power. To her, it wasn't about dominance or control. It was about survival, freedom, and occasionally having a bit of fun. But hearing Kale talk about it made her feel uneasy, as though he were dissecting her very essence. It's not a weapon, she shot back defensively. It's just me. Kyle raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. Maybe, he said. But it's also a liability. People like us, we attract attention. Not all of it good. His words sent a chill down her spine. People like us. Those 3 words echoed in her mind, tying them together in a way she hadn't anticipated. Was he truly like her? Or was he something else entirely? Before she could respond, the lights in the penthouse flickered, drawing their attention to the window. Outside, the storm had intensified, the wind howling like a living thing. Aiko instinctively glanced toward the balcony, half expecting to see something or someone out there. Kale followed her gaze, his expression darkening. There, here, he muttered under his breath, his earlier composure slipping for the first time. Aiko frowned. Who's here? She asked, dread pooling in her stomach. Kale didn't answer right away. Instead, he moved quickly to a hidden panel in the wall, pressing a button that revealed a concealed safe. From it, he retrieved another device, a handheld scanner that emitted a soft hum. They call themselves the Obscura Syndicate, Kale explained tersely, glancing at the scanner's screen. They hunt people like us, collectors, scientists, mercenaries, you name it. They'll stop at nothing to capture anyone with special talents. Aiko's blood ran cold. She'd always known her powers set her apart, but she'd never imagined they could make her a target. Up until now, she'd lived her life freely, without fear of discovery. But Kale's warning painted a grim picture of a world far more dangerous than she'd realized. "Why are they after you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kale's jaw tightened. "Because I know too much. Because I've seen what they're capable of. And because—" He trailed off, his grip tightening on the scanner. "Because I used to work for them." The admission hung heavy in the air, filling the room with tension. Aiko took a step back, unsure whether to trust him or run for her life. If Kale had once been part of this sinister organization, what guarantee did she have that he wasn't still playing both sides? Yet there was something in his tone, a mix of regret and determination, that made her hesitate. Whatever his past, he seemed genuinely afraid now. Afraid for himself, and perhaps for her too. The scanner suddenly beeped, snapping them both out of their thoughts. Kale cursed under his breath, staring at the readings. "They're closing in," he said urgently. "We need to move, now." Without waiting for her response, he grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward the door. Aiko resisted, tugging her arm free. "Wait," she protested. "Where are we going? What's happening?" Kale turned to look at her, his expression grim, but resolute. "If you want to stay alive, you'll follow me. Trust me, Aiko. You don't want to find out what happens if they catch you." For a moment, Aiko wavered. Every fiber of her being told her to flee, to use her powers to disappear, and leave Kale behind. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the desperation in his voice, or maybe it was the nagging feeling that she couldn't face. Whatever was coming alone. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "Fine," she said. "But if this is a trap, I swear—" She didn't finish. The threat. There was no time. Kale was already moving, leading her through the labyrinthine corridors of his penthouse toward a private elevator. As the door slid shut behind them, sealing them inside, Aiko felt the weight of the moment settle over her. Whatever lay ahead, she knew one thing for sure. Her life would never be the same again. The elevator descended quickly, the hum of its mechanisms barely audible over the storm raging outside. Aiko's mind was a whirlwind of emotions, fear, confusion, and a strange sense of determination she couldn't quite explain. Kale stood beside her, his posture tense, one hand gripping the scanner, while the other hovered near a concealed holster at his side. He wasn't just running, he was preparing for a fight. The realization made Aiko's stomach churn. Whatever, or whoever, they were about to face. It was clear this wasn't going to end without a struggle. When the doors opened, they stepped into an underground garage filled with sleek, high-tech vehicles. Kale led her to a black SUV equipped with reinforced windows and what looked like advanced surveillance systems built into the dashboard. "Get in," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. Aiko hesitated only briefly before climbing into the passenger seat. As Kale started the engine, the sound of distant thunder was joined by something else, the faint but unmistakable whir of drones closing in. Aiko's breath hitched as she glanced at the rearview mirror, spotting red, lights blinking through the rain-soaked darkness. They weren't alone. "They're here," Kale muttered, slamming his foot on the accelerator. The SUV roared to life, tires screeching against the wet pavement as they sped out of the garage. Behind them, the drones gave chase, their movements eerily precise. Aiko gripped the edge of her seat, her heart pounding in time with the storm outside. "What do they want from us?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound brave. Kale didn't look at her, his focus entirely on the road ahead. "They'll use you," he said grimly. "Study you, dissect your powers until there's nothing left. And when they're done, they'll discard you like trash." Aiko shuddered at the thought, her invisibility suddenly feeling less like a gift and more like a curse. But even as fear threatened to overwhelm her, a spark of defiance ignited within her chest. She wouldn't let them take her, not without a fight. Glancing at Kale, she saw the same resolve etched onto his face. For all his secrets and questionable past, he seemed genuinely intent on protecting her. That knowledge gave her strength. Even as the situation grew more dire, the chase escalated, the drones firing electromagnetic pulses that crackled dangerously close to their vehicle. One hit would disable the SUV, leaving them stranded and vulnerable. Kale swerved expertly, navigating the narrow streets with a skill that spoke of years of practice. "Hold on!" he shouted as he took a sharp turn, sending the car skidding sideways. Before regaining control, Aiko clung to the door handle, her knuckles white. "We can't keep running forever," she yelled over the roar of the engine and the storm. "What's the plan?" Kale spared her a quick glance, his expression unreadable. "There's a safe house nearby," he said, "but we need to lose them first." Before Aiko could respond, an explosion rocked the air behind them. One of the drones had self-destructed, sending debris flying in every direction. The shockwave hit their vehicle, causing it to fishtail violently. Aiko screamed as Kale fought to steady the SUV, his hands gripping the wheel with white-knuckled intensity. For a moment, it felt like they might spin out completely, but then the tires caught traction, and they surged forward once more. As they approached the outskirts of the city, the drones began to fall back, their pursuit seemingly abandoned. Aiko exhaled shakily, relief washing over her, but Kyle remained on edge. "Don't relax yet," he warned. "This isn't over." Sure enough, moments later, a black van appeared in their rearview mirror, its headlights cutting through the rain like twin beams of menace. Unlike the drones, this vehicle was manned and heavily armed. Bullets ricocheted off the SUV's reinforced frame, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Aiko ducked instinctively, her heart hammering. In her chest, Kale gritted his teeth, pushing the SUV to its limits as he maneuvered toward an abandoned warehouse district. "Now's your chance," he said abruptly, glancing at her. "Use your powers. Distract them." Aiko blinked, stunned by the request. Invisibility had always been her escape route, not a weapon. But Kale was right. They needed an advantage, and she was the only one who could provide it. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes and focused, letting the storm envelop her once again. When she opened them, she was gone. The van screeched to a halt as its occupants scrambled to locate their target. Seizing the opportunity, Kale slammed on the brakes, spinning the SUV around to face their pursuers. With precision born of desperation, he unleashed a barrage of countermeasures. Smoke grenades, EMP bursts, anything to buy Aiko time. Meanwhile, invisible and undetected, Aiko crept closer to the van. Using her newfound confidence, she sabotaged their equipment, disabling weapons and creating chaos among the syndicate agents. It was risky, reckless even, but it worked. Within minutes, the van was immobilized, its occupants scrambling to retreat. When Aiko reappeared beside the SUV, soaked and breathless, but triumphant, Kyle allowed himself a rare smile. "Not bad," he admitted, his tone grudgingly impressed. Aiko grinned despite herself. "Told you I could handle it," she quipped, though her legs felt like jelly beneath her. Together, they drove the rest of the way to the safe house in silence, the storm finally beginning to subside. Inside the hidden bunker, Cale explained everything, the truth about his past with the Obscura Syndicate, his reasons for leaving, and his ongoing efforts to dismantle their operations. Aiko listened intently, piecing together the fragments of the puzzle that had brought them here. By the time he finished, dawn was breaking, casting soft light through the reinforced windows. For the first time in hours, Aiko felt a glimmer of hope. "I'm not letting them win," she declared firmly. "Not after everything they've done." Cale nodded, his expression resolute. "Neither am I. But we'll need allies if we're going to take them down for good." Aiko smiled, a fire igniting in her eyes. "Then let's find them." In the days that followed, Aiko and Kyle forged an unlikely partnership. United by shared purpose and mutual respect, they uncovered others like themselves, individuals with extraordinary abilities who had been hunted and hidden away. Together, they formed a network, a family of sorts, dedicated to fighting back against those who sought to exploit them. Through storms both literal and metaphorical, Aiko learned that true strength came not from invisibility or isolation, but from standing together. As the final scene unfolded, Aiko stood atop another skyscraper, watching the sunrise paint the sky in hues of gold and pink. Beside her, Cale observed quietly, his presence grounding her in ways she hadn't expected. The storm had passed, but its echoes lingered, a reminder of the battles fought and the ones yet to come. And though the future remained uncertain, Aiko knew one thing for sure. She was ready to face it, visible and unafraid.